Good afternoon. So today is Wednesday, July 3rd, and I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit of what I'm doing here for property management this summer in anticipation of deer season coming up this fall, and as a follow-up to the turkey season we had here back in the spring. So what you see behind me here is part of the property. Back right over in here is where the my winter food plot was at last year, and it did really well. Had a lot of deer and turkey activity in there. I went through and I let everything here grow. I hadn't bush hogged anything since probably I would say November time frame, give or take. No, I take it back. I bush hogged the top up here, the very top of the hill, in March. In anticipation of turkey season, because the turkeys like to come out here on the top of this hill. They roost up here, used to roost up here anyway, and they would fly down and they would strut in these mowed fields. So all the hillside behind me here, the rest of it, I had let grow since probably November during deer season. So I let it grow because what I've seen is the deer like to come up here and bed, and there's a lot of browse in there. And I don't like to come in and mow it when a lot of people around here mow their hay in May time frame, because I've got a lot of poults. I got a lot of hens up here that have nests. I've got poults running all over the place, and the deer like to fawn up here. So I let the grass, I let the field get overgrown, the blackberries, all the various ragweed and everything. I let all of that grow all spring long, get up to, in a lot of cases, it's probably 4.5 feet tall before I come through and bush hog it all down. So I actually have my property broken up into various sections, and so I stage the mowing throughout the year. That way I give the deer a variety of different grass heights. So as you see, I just mowed all this, but directly behind it, and if I even pan around here, over here, you see I've still left some tall grass and a lot of blackberries in there too. You know, the turkeys will come through, they'll browse on the blackberries, and they'll go through the edges of the grass, picking the bugs off. The deer will bed right along the edge of the blackberries, and they'll feed on the blackberries. So I like to leave a variety of grass types, level of cover in here for the deer. So let's take a little walk around here, and I'll show you what I mean. So here's an example of a edge that I like to maintain up here. So I've got a lot of various edges up here. I like to keep the top of the property. Basically I own a hilltop and the two sides going down either side. And what I like to do is I like to keep the top mowed off good and clean for most of the year. And that allows a good area for the turkeys to come in. It gives them a lot of area to walk around, feel safe. And then I keep the edges looking something like this along the top. And that gives a nice border. The turkeys will walk these edges, and they'll just be picking the bugs out of the grass along these higher edges, and they're not having to venture off over into the high grass. I've found that by doing that, that allows me to maintain higher poult success ratios throughout the summer. I don't lose as many. Compared to people who either only have woodland areas or they have pasture fields that they keep it mowed all the time, or they have cattle. I find that by doing this, I really retain a lot of my poults throughout the entire summer. So here's another example. So we've got the edge that comes all the way down here where I've mowed everything up above. My little garden is right up here. Surprisingly, I never have any deer or turkeys in the garden. A lot of people talk about that, but I think it's because I've got so much other browse. I've got the food plots. I've got all that up here that there's so much food that I don't have to deal with the deer and turkeys in my garden. Anyway, what I've got here behind me is I like to keep, so as I mentioned before, I have the property busted up into various areas, and I mow those areas based on a schedule that I developed a couple years ago that I try to stick to. That way I have areas of freshly mowed grass, areas of the field that was mowed a month or two ago, and then areas that haven't been mowed, like this beside me here. I mowed back in around November time frame, so here we are. That's basically 8 months ago. So as you see, this is nice and tall and thick, and there's blackberries coming up. There's all kinds of browse, ragweed, you name it, coming up in there. So there's a lot of stuff in there that the deer can get into. They like to bed in here. When I go through these areas on the tractors, there's just beds everywhere. So what I do is, instead of just letting the whole thing grow up into a thick mess, is I cut trails. So you can see behind me here, I've got a road here that I've cut. And one, that allows me easier path to walk through it. There's a lot of blackberry clumps out here that I've left. I leave blackberry clumps, large clumps, strategically placed throughout the property to give me 10 or 12 large blackberry clumps where I can go pick for my own consumption, but it also allows the deer and turkey to utilize those as well. But I keep these roads, these paths mowed off. And one, I find the deer use these as travel corridors all the time. I didn't expect that because I thought they would just cross through the fields the way they always have. But when I mow these trails off through the fields, these deer will follow these. Secondly, the turkeys use the edges of these roads the same way that they use the edges of these fields here. They'll walk down, the hen will walk down this trail with the poults in tow, and they're just picking bugs off of both sides. It's really funny to sit here and watch them because there's so many bugs up here. Grasshoppers, crickets, all different assortments of bugs up here that I never knew until I got out here and started spending time out here. And it's funny to watch because those little poults will just hurry up and they'll scurry along real fast and pop that neck out and the head out and pop those bugs off the vines or off the plants. It's really pretty funny to watch. I had never seen it before till really last summer when I started spending a lot of time out here watching them. But that's another thing I like to do up here, is to just maintain the roads going through the middle of the fields. I've got a main road here. I've got a road down here below me. I've got a road up here above me. And I've got two other roads that go all the way through the field, all the way down to the bottom of the hill. And the deer and turkeys just walk those roads all the time. So, okay, so one more thing to show you here today. Maybe one more. I may have to think of one other thing as I wrap up. But back here behind me is the food plot that I just put the video on YouTube up of where I planted that. This is about 7 weeks, is that right? Yeah, it's about 7 weeks after I planted. Unfortunately, the timing of my planting was terrible because I worked this ground up, I planted it, and then we went 17 days with not a drop of rain here. And so what happened was a lot of my seeds, they never germinated. It was too long without moisture. It allowed a lot of the plants that I had tried to work up and plow or use the disc to turn into the soil. A lot of the roots on those plants took hold and they started regrowing. That said, you know, I do have a lot of my millet has finally, it's getting really tall now. My buckwheat is probably 1.5 feet tall now. It's blooming out. The deer have come through and they've browsed on that pretty hard to begin with early on. My soybeans, they started out just fantastic after I got the rain. Let's say the seeds that hadn't laid there and kind of rotted or whatever happens, I don't know. But the ones that did germinate and come up, they got to about 8 inches tall, and the deer or turkeys, I'm assuming mostly deer, came through and just ate them into the ground. So I had put out what I thought was plenty of soybeans this year for this food plot. It doesn't look to be so. And I didn't put a hot wire up around it either. I talked to a buddy who uses these real world wildlife soybeans, and he advised me putting a hot wire fence around it, otherwise the deer would do that. I didn't do it. I thought I would risk it and see. Yeah, I think I should have done the fence. What I did this week, though, I did go over here and beside this food plot, I went ahead and bush hogged really low another area beside it. I didn't weed kill this food plot before I planted it because of all the Roundup concerns that are going on, my wife was really hesitant for me to use glyphosate on it to kill it. So I didn't do that, and I've done that in the past, and that also is a significant difference there too. I think on this one over here, I may use 2,4-D. I may try the glyphosate again, I don't know, but I think I'm going to weed kill it, turn it over 2 or 3 times, and then try to get a late summer plot in. Like I said, I realize it's July 3rd. It's getting really late, but we have temperatures here in Tennessee into the 70s a lot of times all the way through October. So, a very large bird just flew overhead. Don't know what it is. All I see is the silhouette. Maybe a buzzard, I can't tell. Anyway, so it's possible to have a late summer food plot here. It's not uncommon for us to put our summer plots out here late June. So I think I could still get something here. I just have to figure out what I'm going to do as far as that goes. But anyway, food plots are big. They're really crucial to bringing the deer in, holding them here, giving them a lot of protein, especially right now when you have all the does here that have fawns and they've got the milk production going on, and the bucks are trying to get the protein to build antlers. So in addition to the mineral sites, which bucks and does right now are both hitting really hard, getting a lot of protein in the forms of food plots is also very important for your herd. And the turkeys come through here and they work along the edge of this food plot almost daily as well. The blackberries are loaded this year. Looks to be another fantastic year for persimmons. Well, there you have it. That's my basic basic property management activities I've got going on here right now. So between the basic strategic scheduled bush hogging that I'm doing in various areas to give the deer and turkeys a variety of habitats, between areas to feed in, low cut grass areas for browse, the higher, thicker, more dense grassy areas for bedding and cover, to the food plot, the blackberries. The blackberries are just, they're hanging full this year, so there's a lot of calories there available for the deer and turkeys to come eat on. And you never know when they may be a bear. I've actually got hickory nuts already falling out of the trees over here too. I'm a little surprised by that. That's I don't know if it's because of the heat or what it is. Maybe it's just they've got so much mast on them that the tree's just self-pruning. I don't know. But anyway, so that's basically what I got going on this year. Like I said, I'm probably going to put another summer food plot in. I'm definitely going to put a fall food plot in, most likely down at the same location I had it last year, because that really worked very well for pulling the deer in. And then we can actually see it from our back porch. So I don't hunt. I don't hunt off out of the house, trust me. I feel like I have to make an effort. So I actually I walk down into the woods to get into my tree stand, whether it be that way or back over into the hardwoods back over here. I feel like I have to make an effort. I'm not the kind of guy who's just going to hunt off my porch. I feel like I owe it to the deer to do more than that. I guess nothing wrong with it if you do it that way. That's just not my thing. I'm being swarmed by gnats here right now. So anyway, that's what I got going on here. I'll try to do another update here as the summer wears on with anything else that's going on, if I put another food plot in, if I see anything that's developing. So until next time, have a great day.